Since the beginning of time, humans have feared many things: death, rejection, failure. But there is one fear we rarely name out loud. Not the fear of losing everything, the fear of feeling nothing. That strange, heavy silence inside your chest. The days where your life looks fine on the outside, but inside it feels like someone turned the lights off. What if I told you, you don't feel empty by accident? Your mind is trying to say something, and psychology has been trying to translate this message for centuries. Jung called it the shadow, the forgotten parts of ourselves that we pretend don't exist. Nietzsche warned about the danger of becoming part of the herd, living a life that isn't really yours. Freud saw people numbing themselves with habits, addictions, distractions, just to avoid looking inside. Different names, same experience. You wake up, you scroll, you work, you function. But under everything, there is this quiet question. Is this really all there is? That's the emptiness I'm talking about, not drama. Not a sad playlist at 2 a.m. A psychological, existential void that makes everything feel flat. In this video, we're going to walk straight into that empty space instead of running from it. We'll explore what psychology actually says about this feeling of inner emptiness, why your brain and your environment can make you feel emotionally offline, and most importantly, how to begin transforming that void into direction, meaning, and creation. We're not here to romanticize pain. We're here to understand it and use it. Follow the white rabbit. Let's go deeper. When you live as a mask, the self goes silent. First principle. You feel empty when you live too long as a mask and forget the person behind it. Jung said that every person has a persona, the image you show the world, the good student, the productive professional, the chill friend. The problem isn't having a persona. The problem is when the persona becomes a prison. The more you ignore your real emotions, your needs, your curiosity, your anger, your desires, the more your inner world stops sending signals. It's like your mind says, if you're not listening anyway, why should I keep talking? That silence feels like emptiness. Imagine a young lawyer in a big city. On paper, he has everything: money, status, parents proud of him. He posts the perfect life, but every night he lies in bed with a single thought. I don't remember the last time I did something because I wanted to, not because I should. He pushes it down, changes nothing. Years pass, the emptiness grows. Then one day, during a random conversation, someone asks him, "Okay, but what do you actually want?" And he doesn't know. Not because he's broken, but because he's been playing the role so long that he lost access to the script of his own soul. Today, this happens everywhere. You choose careers for approval, not alignment. You say yes to plans you don't enjoy. You censor your opinions to avoid conflict. You stay in relationships where you're physically present, but emotionally absent. The result isn't always drama. Many times it's just a numb, gray life. Two simple weapons to start breaking the mask. Daily unfiltered question. Every night, write one thing you wanted to say or do that you didn't. Don't judge, just observe. This reconnects you to your authentic impulses. Micro acts of honesty. Once a day, do or say something slightly more honest than usual. It might be, I'm actually tired. I don't like this. Or, I'd rather do X. Tiny acts of truth slowly bring the self back online. When life has no why, everything feels empty. Second principle. You feel empty when your life has no why, only to-do lists. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived concentration camps, observed something brutal. People don't collapse simply because life is hard. They collapse when life feels meaningless. Nietzsche wrote that a person who has a strong why can endure almost anyhow. Without that why, even a comfortable life becomes strangely unbearable. Emptiness is not always the absence of comfort, it's the absence of meaning. Think of the Greek myth of Sisyphus, condemned by the gods to push a rock up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down every single time. Physically, he is active, busy. Existentially, he is empty. Many people today are living their own version of Sisyphus. You wake up, you work, you scroll, you sleep, repeat. The rock moves, but nothing inside you moves. This shows up as doing everything right but feeling no deeper alignment, reaching goals and feeling weirdly unchanged, chasing dopamine hits just to avoid facing the question, what is all of this for? The brutal why exercise. Take one area of your life, work, relationships, health, and ask, why am I doing this? Then ask why again to your answer. Do that 5 times. When you reach an answer that makes your chest tighten a little, you're closer to the real reason, meaning through direction, not perfection. You don't need a grand life mission to feel less empty. You need one direction where your effort feels like it matters. It could be learning a craft, helping a specific group of people, or exploring a question that won't leave you alone. When you numb the pain, you numb everything. Third principle. You can't selectively numb emotions. When you shut down your pain, you also shut down your ability to feel joy. Modern behavioral psychology shows a pattern. When people feel something uncomfortable, loneliness, anxiety, shame, they tend to escape. Not by resolving it, but by distracting themselves. Food, work, social media, parties, games, casual connections. Freud called this defense mechanisms, not evil, just mental shortcuts to avoid suffering. The problem is, if every emotion that hurts gets immediately silenced, your inner world becomes a desert, safe, but lifeless. Imagine someone who, after a breakup, decides, I'll never be vulnerable again. They keep things light, superficial, replace depth with speed. Years later, they realize they rarely feel deep sadness, but they also never feel deep joy, deep love, deep anything. They didn't just protect themselves from pain, they accidentally protected themselves from life. Signs of emotional anesthesia, constant multitasking so you don't have to sit with yourself, needing background noise 24/7, feeling fine but never really excited or moved, confusing emotional absence with emotional maturity, scheduled stillness. Choose 10 minutes a day with no noise, no phone, no distraction, just sit. Observe what comes up. Discomfort is data. Naming the emotion. When you feel off, don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what exactly am I feeling right now? Name it. Boredom, grief, envy, disappointment. Studies show that simply labeling an emotion already reduces its intensity and increases your control over it. So far, we've uncovered 3 brutal truths. You feel empty when you live only as a mask. You feel empty when your life has no real why. You feel empty when you're so busy avoiding pain that you accidentally avoid living. These are the foundations. They explain why the void appears, but understanding is just the first step. What if the emptiness is not just a problem, but also a portal? Now we move into the more dangerous territory. How to use this emptiness as raw material to rebuild yourself. The next principles are not about surviving the void. They're about turning it into power. If you're still here, you're ready. The void is a question, not a curse. Fourth principle. The emptiness you feel is not just a symptom. It is a question life is asking you. Socrates built his entire philosophy on one method, asking better questions. Instead of assuming he knew the truth, he questioned everything, beliefs, desires, values. Not to destroy people, but to strip away illusions. What if your emptiness is Socrates knocking, not saying, you are broken, but asking, are you living a life that truly belongs to you? Think of a person in ancient Athens who thought success meant public approval. They chased status, applause, reputation. Then, after losing everything in a political shift, they are left alone with themselves. The crowd is gone. The image is gone. What remains? That moment of silence is terrifying, but it is also the first time they can ask, who am I without all of this? The emptiness becomes a doorway to a more honest self. In today's world, emptiness often appears after a big achievement, after a breakup, after leaving a job or city that defined you, or for no obvious reason, just a slow erosion of meaning. Instead of treating it like a glitch, you can treat it like a questionnaire. Void journaling prompt. Write this at the top of a page. If this emptiness was trying to protect me from a lie I'm living, what lie would that be? Don't edit. Just let it speak. Socratic walks. Once a week, walk alone for 20 minutes with one question in mind. What part of my life feels the most fake right now? The goal isn't to judge yourself, it's to listen. Without inner order, the void takes over. Fifth principle. If you don't build an inner structure, the emptiness will. Thales of Miletus and other early Greek thinkers tried to find the basic principle behind everything. They wanted order in chaos. In psychology shows that humans are the same. We need some internal structure, values, routines, commitments, or the mind dissolves into distraction and noise. The void grows when your life is fully reactive. You only respond. You never decide. Imagine someone who wakes up every day with no plan. They check messages, respond to other people's demands, scroll, follow whatever appears first. At night, they feel done, but not fulfilled. They didn't choose their day. They just survived it. The absence of structure feels like freedom at first. Then it slowly starts to feel like drifting in empty space. This shows up as no clear priorities, no boundaries with time or people, always busy, rarely intentional, feeling like life happens to you, not through you. 3 non-negotiables. Choose 3 daily actions that align with who you want to become, not who you are right now. For example, 20 minutes of reading something that expands your mind, 10 minutes of journaling or meditation, 1 act of courage or honesty. These are not goals, they are anchors. Value filter. Write 3 core values you want to live by: honesty, courage, depth, contribution, etc. Before saying yes to something, ask, does this honor at least one of my values? If not, it's probably feeding the void, not your soul. Turn the void into creation. 6th principle, what you don't express, you carry, and what you carry for too long becomes emptiness. But there's another option: transmutation. Freud noticed that people often redirect forbidden impulses, aggression, desire, frustration, into socially acceptable forms. He called this sublimation, turning raw drives into art, work, ideas, discipline. Jung would say, when you give form to what is hidden, you integrate it. The void is not only the absence of feeling. Sometimes it's unexpressed energy with nowhere to go. Think of artists who created from their darkest seasons, not to glorify suffering, but to avoid being consumed by it. A poet who writes about loneliness instead of numbing it. A painter who turns confusion into shapes and colors. A musician who translates heartbreak into sound. They could have tried to escape the emptiness. Instead, they used it as fuel. You don't need to be a professional artist to do this. Transmutation today can look like turning anxiety into physical movement, turning confusion into writing, turning anger into building something new, turning emptiness into a question that guides your next project, your next habit, your next relationship choice. Create from the void ritual. Once a week, sit with a blank page or canvas and write at the top, today, my emptiness feels like. Then give it shape. Words, symbols, sketches, music, choreography. The goal is not beauty, the goal is translation. Channel, don't cancel. When you feel an intense emotion rising, jealousy, rage, despair, instead of acting it out or stuffing it down, redirect it into a concrete action. A workout, a page of writing, a voice memo, a plan for change. You're telling your mind, your energy is welcome here, but it must build, not only destroy. So why do you feel empty? Not because you're broken, but because you've worn the mask for too long. You've lived without a real why. You've numbed your emotions instead of listening. You've treated the void like a curse, not a question. You've drifted without inner structure. You've carried feelings that were meant to be transformed. The emptiness is not your enemy. It's your unused life, waiting. When you start to listen, question, structure, and create, something strange happens. The void doesn't fully disappear. It becomes a space where new meaning can be born. Light doesn't exist without darkness. Presence doesn't exist without absence. And you don't become whole by deleting your emptiness, but by giving it a purpose. If you're still here, you are not just consuming another video. You are searching. This channel, White Rabbit, exists for minds like yours. Curious, restless, tired of shallow answers. If you want to keep exploring the psychology behind your shadow, your impulses, your potential, subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep going down the rabbit hole. Each video is not a solution, it's a step. Away from the script they gave you, and closer to the life your mind and your soul are secretly asking for.